Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today's video is my review of Misery by Stephen King. Misery is a psychological horror novel that was written and published in 1987 and that was nominated for the World Fantasy Award for Best Book in 1988. This book follows the story of Paul Sheldon, who is a very prolific writer in the US, who is on a trip through Colorado, and during one winter his car breaks down and he has an accident and he is rescued by his #1 fan, Annie Wilkes. Annie Wilkes takes him into her home and, using her training as a nurse, takes care of him because she is his #1 fan and she loves his books. The problem with that story is that Annie Wilkes is a psychopath. She is severely crazy and this novel is insane. This contains a lot of disturbing scenes. I wouldn't say it's gory, but it definitely has some torture scenes, and it has some scenes that will stay with you for a long time. The rat. Oh my god, the rat. For almost the whole book, the only two characters are Annie Wilkes and Paul Sheldon, and the only location is Annie's house. And that just creates this claustrophobic sensation to the reader as well, and you kind of experience the same tension that Paul experiences. Something I really liked about the structure was that the chapters varied. There are chapters that have like 4 or 5 pages and chapters that have 4 or 5 words. The difference in those was due to the tension. So when Paul Sheldon was more relaxed and Annie was not as crazy, the chapters were longer and it was more descriptive. But the moment that Annie was going crazy and Paul didn't know what to expect from her, the chapters would be a lot shorter and the tension would increase because of how the chapters were structured. I thought that was brilliant in the way that it was written. Another thing that I liked about the writing style was that the thoughts of the characters were mingled with the actual dialogue and what was happening. This reminded me a lot of The Shining by Stephen King. Speaking about The Shining, that was the only reference that I was able to find in Misery related to Stephen King's other novels. There is a very quick reference to the Overlook Hotel and the fate of the Overlook Hotel and its administrator. A couple of interesting facts about this book are that when Stephen King wrote this, he was not planning on releasing it under his name. He was planning on releasing it under his pseudonym, Richard Bachman, which he used to publish books such as The Long Walk, and he was planning to release Misery under that pseudonym, but by the time he got to do that, people found out that Richard Bachman was the same as Stephen King, so there was no point in doing that. Another interesting thing is the fact that Stephen King used his actual experiences to write this book. Of course, he wasn't kidnapped by a crazy fan and tortured, but apparently the book was inspired by his fans' bad reaction to his book The Eyes of the Dragon. I haven't read that book, but apparently it's not horror, and when it came out, fans were very disappointed that Stephen King's novel was not a horror novel, and that kind of inspired the character of Paul Sheldon, who wants to end the Misery series that he is so loved for by a huge fan base, and he wants to move on to other kind of novels. But Annie Wilkes won't let him do that in this book because she loves the Misery series so much. Another inspiration of his for this book was his own addiction to alcohol and drugs. From what I can remember, this is the first and only book by Stephen King that I have read that has absolutely nothing paranormal in it. This is pure insanity, and these are the things that get to me a lot more. While I'm very entertained about things like haunted houses or ghosts or supernatural beings, sometimes I'm scared by that, but mostly what really gets to me is things that could happen in real life, crazy things that people do, torture, crazy kidnappings, stalking. Those are the things that really unsettle me because it's extremely horrific that this could actually happen. People could do this, and it's extremely crazy and it's extremely disturbing and unsettling. The book is also deeper than just the horror tale of a psycho killer kidnapping a person. It goes a lot deeper into Paul Sheldon's mind and his mind as a writer and the kind of questions and doubts he has as a writer. I think that's where Stephen King's experience came in, because Paul Sheldon has a lot of questions and doubts about how good of a writer he is. Should he consider himself a good author? Should he try to continue with that kind of a series, or should he expand and write more novels that he feels comfortable with even though they are not accepted by the public? So I think that's where Stephen King's feelings as a writer came in. Misery was made into a movie in 1990 starring Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes and James Caan as Paul Sheldon, and apparently it has also been made into a variety of plays. I've seen the movie sometime in the past. I don't remember much, but I can remember that it is a lot less intense than the book was. I think the movie was very toned down because it was adapted for television. I haven't seen any of the plays, but I would love to if I'll ever get the chance. I don't know how they would pull it off in a theater. I'm so intrigued. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The reason I gave this book 4 stars instead of 5 were the passages where Paul Sheldon was writing Misery. There's actually a few chapters of the Misery book that as he was writing Misery, they were put in here. I couldn't care too much about those passages. Apart from that, this was an insane ride. It's really short and it's a really intense ride. All in all, I enjoyed this book a lot and I really recommend it to horror fans, psychological horror fans. If you have a strong stomach, definitely go for this book. This was it for my review of Misery by Stephen King. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've read Misery, let me know what you thought about it in the comments, and let me know if you know any other books like this that you think I might enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you back with another video tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye!